For years, Loren Brovarnik has been one of the most recognizable and relatable faces in the 90-Day Fiancé universe. From her early days navigating long-distance love with Alexei to building a family in front of millions of viewers, Loren's life has felt like an open book. Or at least, that's what fans believed. But recently, something has changed. Longtime followers of 90-Day Fiancé, happily ever after, have noticed subtle yet undeniable tension every time the conversation turns to Loren's relationship with her mother. What was once portrayed as a close-knit, supportive bond now feels strained, awkward, and emotionally distant. And while Loren hasn't come out and directly spelled out what went wrong, her recent comments, reactions, and body language have begun telling a much deeper story, one that hints at an emotional rift far more complex than anyone initially imagined. This is not a story about petty arguments or simple misunderstandings. This is a story about boundaries, motherhood, identity, pressure, and what happens when love becomes overwhelming rather than supportive. From the very beginning of her 90-Day Fiancé journey, Loren's mom played a visible and vocal role in her life. She was protective, opinionated, and deeply invested in Loren's decisions, especially when Loren decided to marry Alexei, a man from another country, another culture, and another way of life. At the time, fans saw this involvement as concern, even love. But with hindsight, many are now asking whether that intense involvement may have crossed lines that Loren herself didn't know how to draw back then. As Loren transitioned from daughter to wife and then to mother, the dynamic shifted dramatically. Becoming a parent changes everything, and for Loren, it appears to have awakened a new emotional awareness, one that forced her to reevaluate long-standing family patterns she once accepted without question. In recent episodes and interviews, Loren has carefully chosen her words when speaking about her mom. She doesn't attack, she doesn't accuse, but she pauses, she exhales. She acknowledges differences, boundaries, and learning to protect her peace. These phrases may sound harmless on the surface, but for anyone who has navigated complicated family relationships, they speak volumes. What Loren seems to be hinting at is not a single incident, but years of emotional buildup. One of the biggest sources of tension appears to stem from control, specifically, how involved Loren's mother expects to be in decisions that now belong to Loren and Alexei as a unit. From parenting styles to lifestyle choices, Loren has subtly implied that her mother struggles to step back and let her live independently. This struggle is deeply relatable to many viewers. When a parent is used to being central in their child's life, it can be incredibly difficult for them to accept a new hierarchy, one where the spouse and children come first. And while this type of control often masquerades as care or help, it can slowly suffocate the person on the receiving end. Loren's facial expressions during family scenes tell a story words never could. The forced smiles, the nervous laughter, the way she carefully deflects or softens conversations. These are not the behaviors of someone who feels safe expressing herself freely. And then there's Alexei. Fans have long suspected that Loren's husband plays a key role in helping her recognize unhealthy dynamics. Calm, grounded, and emotionally steady, Alexei often serves as Loren's anchor. Over time, it's clear that he encourages her to stand her ground, speak her truth, and prioritize the family they've built together. This is where the tension truly intensifies. When a partner supports boundaries that a parent doesn't agree with, it can feel like betrayal to that parent. Suddenly, the narrative shifts from, "I just want what's best for you," to "you've changed," or "you're being influenced." Loren appears caught in that painful middle ground, loving her mom, but no longer willing to sacrifice her emotional health to maintain peace. Another layer to this rift involves expectations around motherhood itself. Loren has been open about her struggles with postpartum anxiety, body image, and the emotional toll of caring for 3 young children. During such a vulnerable period, support isn't just appreciated, it's essential. However, Loren has hinted that instead of feeling supported, she often felt judged or pressured to conform to someone else's idea of what motherhood should look like. For any new mom, unsolicited advice can feel overwhelming. When that advice comes with criticism or comparison, it cuts even deeper. And when it comes from your own mother, the emotional weight can be crushing. Loren's hints suggest that she felt unheard during moments when she needed empathy the most. There's also the added pressure of living life in the public eye. Every family disagreement, every awkward interaction, every tense moment becomes public opinion fodder. For Loren, navigating a fragile relationship with her mom while cameras roll likely amplifies everything. Silence becomes safer than confrontation. Distance becomes easier than constant explanation. Over time, that silence creates space, and distance hardens into a rift. What's particularly heartbreaking is that Loren clearly doesn't want a dramatic fallout. She still speaks about her mom with respect and affection, but respect does not mean tolerating emotional discomfort forever. Growth sometimes requires difficult distance, even from the people we love most. In one particularly telling moment, Loren alluded to choosing her mental health for the first time. That single sentence may be the clearest hint yet of what truly lies behind the strained relationship. Choosing mental health often means saying no. It means setting boundaries that disappoint others. And it means accepting that you can love someone and still decide they don't get unlimited access to you. For Loren, that choice appears to be both empowering and devastating. Fans online have started rallying behind her, sharing their own stories of complicated parent-child relationships. Many applaud Loren for quietly modeling what emotional maturity looks like, especially for women who are taught from a young age to keep everyone happy at their own expense. Still, the story remains unfinished. Loren has not slammed the door shut. She hasn't cut ties. Instead, she's navigating a painful middle space filled with hope, healing, and hesitation. The hope that her mother will understand, the healing that comes from prioritizing herself, and the hesitation of knowing that rebuilding trust takes time on both sides. What her recent hints reveal most clearly is this: the rift isn't about anger. It's about boundaries. It's about evolution. And it's about a woman finally stepping into her own identity beyond being someone's daughter. As the distance between Loren Brovarnik and her mother became more noticeable, fans began dissecting every interaction more closely than ever before. A simple glance, a short reply, or an uncomfortable pause suddenly felt loaded with meaning. And while the cameras captured only fragments, those fragments painted a picture of emotional exhaustion rather than explosive conflict. One of the most telling patterns is Loren's growing self-awareness. Years ago, she often brushed off tense moments with humor or self-blame. Now, her responses are slower, more measured, as if she's consciously choosing not to fall back into old emotional habits. This transformation didn't happen overnight. It came from months, perhaps years, of internal struggle. Loren has hinted that becoming a mother forced her to confront the emotional environment she wanted for her children. She began asking questions she had never asked before. What does healthy communication look like? What does unconditional support actually feel like? And most importantly, what kind of emotional patterns do I want my children to witness? These questions are powerful because they challenge generational dynamics. Many viewers believe Loren is facing what psychologists often describe as generational boundary tension, where a parent expects the same level of authority and emotional access they once had, even after their child has formed a new family unit. For Loren's mom, stepping back may feel like losing relevance. For Loren, not pushing back may feel like losing herself. This emotional tug-of-war is silent, but intense. Sources close to the show suggest that off-camera conversations have been just as strained, if not more so. Without the pressure of filming, difficult truths surface, truths that can't be edited, softened, or explained away. Loren's hints suggest those conversations were emotionally draining rather than healing. What makes this rift particularly painful is that love still exists on both sides. Loren has never suggested malice or cruelty. Instead, her subtle hints point to emotional invalidation, a feeling many adult children experience when their emotions are dismissed or minimized by a parent who believes they know better. Statements like, "I was just trying to help," or "you're too sensitive," can sound harmless, but over time, they erode trust. They teach a child, now an adult, that their feelings are negotiable, optional, or inconvenient. For someone like Loren, who has openly discussed anxiety and emotional vulnerability, this kind of environment can be deeply destabilizing. Another critical factor in this rift is the difference between intention and impact. Loren seems to be acknowledging that while her mother's intentions may have been loving, the impact was often overwhelming. That realization alone can fracture a relationship because it challenges a parent's self-image as someone who has always done their best. Accepting that you hurt someone without meaning to is incredibly difficult. Accepting it when that someone is your child can be even harder. And so, both women appear stuck, one seeking validation for her pain, the other seeking reassurance that she wasn't a bad mother. Without mutual acknowledgement, healing stalls. Alexei's presence continues to play a quiet but significant role here. He doesn't escalate. He doesn't shame. But his calm certainty reinforces Loren's right to emotional safety. When he supports her boundaries, it gives those boundaries weight. It turns them from requests into non-negotiables. Naturally, this shift can feel threatening to a parent accustomed to being the primary emotional authority in their daughter's life. Loren's mother may interpret distance as rejection. Loren interprets it as survival. This difference in interpretation fuels the emotional gap. There's also an unspoken cultural layer. In many families, emotional closeness is measured by involvement, advice, and constant presence. Pulling away, even gently, can be seen as disrespectful. Loren's hints suggest she is actively unlearning the belief that discomfort equals loyalty. She is learning that love does not require constant access. One of the most powerful moments in Loren's recent interviews came when she stated that protecting peace sometimes means disappointing people. That statement alone summarizes the emotional heart of this rift. For years, Loren prioritized harmony over honesty. Now she's choosing honesty, even when it hurts. That choice comes with guilt. Adult children often carry immense guilt when they set boundaries with parents. Loren's hesitation, her careful wording, and her refusal to publicly criticize her mom reflect that guilt. She is trying to heal without humiliating, to stand firm without burning bridges, but healing is rarely neat. Some fans worry that this distance may become permanent. Others believe it's a necessary phase, a reset that allows both parties to redefine their roles. Loren herself seems unsure. Her hints don't promise resolution. They acknowledge uncertainty, and perhaps that honesty is the most important growth of all. Instead of pretending everything is fine, Loren is allowing the discomfort to exist. She is recognizing that loving someone doesn't mean silencing yourself, and that realization is both liberating and lonely. As viewers, we are watching a woman outgrow a version of herself that no longer fits, while still honoring where she came from. It's a transition marked not by shouting, but by quiet strength. And the truth Loren is hinting at may be this: the rift isn't about one argument or one mistake. It's about years of unspoken needs finally finding a voice. This chapter of Loren Brovarnik's story isn't resolved yet, but it's honest. And sometimes honesty is the first step toward either reconciliation or peaceful distance. Either way, Loren is no longer hiding from her truth. In the end, the truth Loren Brovarnik is hinting at isn't shocking because it's dramatic. It's shocking because it's human. There is no single villain in this story, no explosive betrayal, no cruel words caught on camera. What exists instead is something far more uncomfortable. Two women who love each other deeply, but are no longer speaking the same emotional language. Loren didn't wake up one day and decide to distance herself from her mother. This separation was built slowly, quietly, through moments of feeling misunderstood, overlooked, and emotionally dismissed. Through nights of anxiety where reassurance was needed, not instruction. Through the realization that constant involvement can sometimes feel like control, even when it comes from love. What Loren is finally acknowledging is that love alone is not enough to sustain a healthy relationship. Without boundaries, love can become overwhelming. Without listening, care can become pressure. And perhaps the most painful truth of all is this: sometimes the people who shape us the most are also the ones we must step back from in order to grow. For Loren, motherhood changed everything. Looking at her children, she began to understand something deeply personal: that emotional safety is just as important as physical care. She wants her children to grow up seeing respect, balance, and communication. And to do that, she had to model it herself, even when it meant making choices that broke her heart. Choosing mental health doesn't feel empowering at first. It feels lonely. It feels selfish. It feels like betrayal. And Loren's hesitation, her soft tone, and her careful hints all reflect that internal conflict. She is protecting her peace, but she is grieving the closeness she once had at the same time. Her mother, too, is likely hurting in ways the cameras can't capture. Watching your child pull away can feel like rejection, even when it's really about independence. And letting go, especially when you believe your love was your greatest gift, is an incredibly difficult lesson. What stands between them now isn't anger. It's unprocessed emotion, misunderstood intentions, and the fear on both sides of giving something up that once defined them. Loren's hints are not meant to shame. They are not accusations. They are quiet truths finally allowed to exist. She is learning that she can honor her mother without surrendering her boundaries, that she can love deeply without losing herself, and that growth sometimes requires distance, not to punish, but to heal. Whether reconciliation comes next or not remains uncertain. Real healing does not follow a TV schedule. It doesn't wrap itself up neatly by the end of a season. Sometimes the most powerful ending is not resolution, but recognition. Recognition that this pain is real. Recognition that this growth is necessary. Recognition that choosing yourself does not mean you've stopped loving others. Loren Brovarnik's story is no longer just about reality television. It's about the quiet courage it takes to break emotional cycles, to redefine relationships, and to accept that becoming your truest self may cost you comfort, familiarity, and approval. In that sense, her quiet hints have spoken louder than any argument ever could. And as viewers, perhaps the most important takeaway isn't whose side we're on, but how many of us see ourselves reflected in her journey. Because sometimes, the hardest truth to face is that healing doesn't always bring people closer. Sometimes, it simply brings clarity. And for Loren Brovarnik, that clarity may be the beginning of a healthier, more honest future, whatever form it ultimately takes. Okay, thank you friends for watching this video till the end. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you guys,